Hello, everyone, and welcome to Virtual Craft Night, hosted by the Greater Sudbury Public Library and the Greater Sudbury Museums. Tonight, we'll be turning an aluminum can destined for the recycling bin into a neat little camping stove you can use for light cooking or boiling water outdoors. For this project, you'll need 2 aluminum cans, scissors or an X-Acto knife. Having both on hand is ideal. A ruler, a marker, a pushpin, or a hammer and a thin finishing nail. You may want to have a butter knife on hand for smoothing sharp edges and an elastic band to help you make straighter cuts. When you go to use the stove, you'll need a source of fuel. 99% isopropyl alcohol is recommended, and a spark to light the fuel, which can be most easily created using matches or a lighter. Please be careful when you're making your stove, as we are dealing with sharp tools, sharp edges, cutting, poking, and adding pressure. You may even want to wear a pair of gloves when working with the cut aluminum cans. Further, please do not attempt to light your stove indoors. The alcohol burning in the stove can be near transparent in the daylight, and you wouldn't want to accidentally start a fire. Make sure your space is clear of anything flammable before lighting your stove. There are 3 components to our stove: the stove bottom, the inner chamber, and the stove top. Let's get started with the inner chamber. Use your X-Acto knife to pierce the can just under the harder ridge. Cut all the way around the can and remove the top portion completely. If you don't have an X-Acto knife, you can make a hole with your hammer and nail, then poke your scissors through and cut around the lip of the can. Next, we want to measure about 1.5 inches down from the upper ridge. Use your marker to make measure marks all around the can. If you have a rubber band, line it up with the measure marks as evenly as you can. You can use this line to help you make a straighter cut around the body of the can. Cut along your measure marks or rubber band using your X-Acto knife or scissors. Once the cut is made, go ahead and trim off any sharp edges using your scissors, or try to flatten them towards the inside of the can using something durable and flat like a butter knife. Next, we want to create even ridges all along the body of our can. You can imagine that it will look like a flower when seen from bird's eye view. Use your scissors, a pencil, or a round metal file to create indents and outdents evenly spaced along the outside of your inner chamber. Finally, we want to make tiny cuts about 1/2 centimeter long and 1/2 centimeter wide all along the bottom edge of our inner chamber. Fold the little square flaps towards the center of the can, then set your inner chamber aside for a moment. Let's move on to the bottom of the stove. Using the leftovers from your first can, we're going to make measured marks around the body of the can about 1 inch up from the bottom ridge. Using our rubber band trick and an X-Acto knife, cut along your line. Once again, you can trim any sharp bits using your scissors. Finally, we're going to create our stove top. For the stove top, you'll be using the bottom part of your second aluminum can. First, we want to remove the centerpiece of the bottom. You can cut this out using your X-Acto knife or by making holes all around with your hammer and nail. You'll notice the metal is a bit thicker in this area, so use caution when trying to remove the inner ring. Once removed, you can fold in any sharp bits using a butter knife or a metal file. Next, we want to make measure marks around the can about 1¼ inches from the bottom ridge. Once again, you can use your rubber band to create a line between the marks and cut along it using your scissors or an X-Acto knife. Trim any sharp bits using your scissors. Now that we have our stove top, we want to add some burner holes. We'll do this on the flat lip of the can, all the way around, using our push pin or a hammer and thin finishing nail. Try to space your holes as evenly as possible, leaving a space that's approximately 1/4 inch wide between them. Our last step before testing out the can is to assemble the pieces. We'll place our inner chamber inside the stove bottom and conceal the inner chamber by sliding the stove top over the entire unit. You may need to make a couple of small cuts in your stove bottom so that it will fold in just enough to fit snugly inside its top. Once assembled, you'll have a lightweight, compact stove to bring with you on your outdoor adventures. To light your stove, you'll first need to prep your area, ensuring there are no flammable bits of nature around your site. Then pour approximately 15 milliliters of your alcohol fuel into the center of the stove. Hold a flame just above the liquid and give it a moment to ignite. Remember that alcohol burns nearly transparent in the daylight, so you'll need to listen for a whooshing sound. If you hear this sound, your stove is likely lit. If you want to boil water or heat up a light meal, you'll need to create some distance between your pot and the stove. I created a ring of rocks around the stove and placed a small cooking grate on top, simply because that's what I have on hand. But you can absolutely build a custom pot stand from other materials. A quick online search for DIY camping stand will yield plenty of ideas. Thanks for tuning in to Virtual Craft Night with the Greater Sudbury Public Library and the Greater Sudbury Museums. For even more craft night ideas, follow us on Facebook or check out our YouTube channel. And remember, we love to see your creations, so don't hesitate to drop a photo of your completed project in the comments section below.